Offline Street Fighter action is back and in a big way. Let me explain. Over the past weekend, Red Bull Kumite had just concluded, Red Bull Kumite the New York edition, and it reminded the FGC just how good offline tournaments could be and how esports does not have to mean the end of the grassroots persona and nature of the fighting game community. And you can see here in the trailer here, I really love this trailer and the aesthetic they went for. Red Bull Kumite has been going on for nearly a decade at this point. It's been a 9-year running tournament series, an invitational tournament series, inviting the top level talent from all over the world, including some dark horse picks and fan favorite people as well to represent different character variety and keep things interesting. And here with the New York theme, they're going with the comic book theme this year. All the fighters meet in the cage in the center in the crowd. These sets always represent the setting extremely well, and the production does everything it can to hype up the players and the scene that the tournament is taking place in. And you can see there, they already showed off some of the players that took part in this action-packed tournament over the weekend. You can see here, here's the stage that they had set for Red Bull Kumite in South Africa, which they did very early on in the release of Street Fighter 6, I believe within the first month of Street Fighter 6's release. So this is the second Red Bull Kumite event that they're having for Street Fighter 6. Here's a shot from the crowd from Jackie Peanuts here, showing how the players are dead center in the ring right there in the crowd in the Underground Fight Club NYC setting that they cooked up here in New York. And in fact, I wanted to go over a little bit of the history of Red Bull Kumite, because like I mentioned, this event has been going on for nearly a decade, back, dating back all the way to 2015, starting with Street Fighter 4, the final year of Street Fighter 4.
Do you think he will play Ryu, Sagat? If he use Ryu, I body him.
Tokido letting the crowd know that if Bonchan uses Ryu against him in the grand finals of Red Bull Kumite 2015, I will body him. But he goes on to clarify.
If he use Sagat, anyway, I body.
And if he uses Sagat anyways, I body. Tokido's been a showman for quite some time. His English has improved greatly over the years, but even back in 2015, the final year for Street Fighter 4 in the competitive scene before Street Fighter 5 released, he is letting the world know that he is the murder face, and he comes with the gameplay and the smack talk included. And in that grand finals, though, it might have come back to haunt him, because here we have Bonchan in the grand finals, and he is the one who ultimately closes out the set, finds the clutch anti-air in the heat of the battle. He gets the F80C into the Ultra, and he will close out Red Bull Kumite 2015 as the champion. And I believe this kind of is the event that, cascaded Bonchan's successful career. He was on the come up for quite some time in the international scene with Sagat and had a lot of great tournament performances. But this is one of the big wins that cemented Bonchan as a legendary player in the Street Fighter community and kind of got him in contact with Red Bull. And since then, he's been a Red Bull sponsored player, taking the very first Kumite in France, where the production team and the original Red Bull Kumite events originated in, and the majority of the Red Bull Kumites were actually in France. And so since then, Red Bull Kumite has been the home of a lot of very hype moments in the Street Fighter community, and it's also hype not just for the high level gameplay, but because the production team goes to great lengths to allow the players to showcase their personality. It is an invitational, so they want to bring hype picks, kind of like a fight card sort of mentality with this event. Classic moment here, Oil King, Red Bull Kumite 2018. With the pull away pants, Oil King known for the shorts, so he's making his entrance into the ring. Of course, he comes with the pants, the pull away pants. Legendary entrance there from Oil King. Another one of my favorite moments, part of the Red Bull Kumite tradition, is it's an invitational. So the seeding for the bracket and the format, it does vary year to year, but the matchups are determined by the luck of the draw, the drama of the randomness of the draw. And here's 801 Strider at Red Bull Kumite 2019. Drawing his number to determine what his first matchup will be for the bracket, hamming it up a little bit for the camera. And let's see what he gets.
Uh-oh, wait a second. So he gets Bonchan again. Oh, upside down. What are you doing, Strider? They're going to clip that.
So confidently holding the upside down 3. Gus, this is too good. I just love how proud he looks in this moment, holding it confidently to the camera after dramatically browsing through, pursuing the option he will select. He gets the 3 upside down for the camera. G players, they can't count. But classic moment right there. So there's lots of humorous moments as well as the hype moments of the gameplay, and including the gameplay though. Don't count out the games themselves. this matchup, I'm not going to show the whole clip here, but if people remember, Problem X versus Daigo and Red Bull Kumite, I believe this is 2019 as well. One of the most insane rounds of Street Fighter ever, and one of the most hyped tournament sets of all time. I mean, it's just such a nail-biter match right here. I highly advise watching this set if you're at all interested in some classic Street Fighter sets. Street Fighter 5, it had some good moments. You cannot deny it. You can't deny it. Daigo taking that round there was a ridiculous comeback. And also, some goofy moments as well. Listen, I was fortunate enough to be invited to Red Bull Kumite 2021 in Las Vegas. They had the boxing theme. They had the ring in Las Vegas, so they figured they'd have a boxer player included. Here I am in groups. I'm 1-1 in my group. I won my match against Goichi. I lost to Problem X, and I close out the clutch set to advance out of groups into the top 8 versus Mono with this comment.
It was an accident.
I had to come clean there. In the final round, final interaction against Mono, I go for a crouching medium kick right here to, safely poke at him, but for some reason I over buffered and accidentally got an uppercut motion, and he happened to backdash and I chased it down. And so the it was on accident meme was sort of born, and I accidentally progressed into the top 8 when I was fortunate enough to be a part of Red Bull Kumite history. I still have the boxing gloves back there as my little, parcel to remind me of this amazing event. So I will always be thankful for Red Bull for giving me the opportunity to participate in such a legendary tournament series. But that said, there's also more legendary moments in the Street Fighter 6 era. Red Bull Kumite South Africa, they had Jabi M, the hometown hero from South Africa when this event was going on. He drew Tokido for round 1. First to 5 single elim sets for this bracket. Look at the draw game, Jabi M versus Tokido. And he ends up eliminating Tokido 5-3 in the first round of Red Bull Kumite South Africa in front of the home crowd, where people did not believe that such a thing was possible. Could a player from South Africa really beat one of the best players of all time, a legendary player? Would they even have the opportunity to compete? Red Bull is the one who put the events together to make such a dream matchup happen and to inspire players from all over the world, inspire players from the South African community and for the rest of the world that yes, you can compete with the best of the best. Yeah, and just be ready for that opportunity when it presents itself. So what an amazing legendary set from Red Bull Kumite South Africa. And thus, we are back to Red Bull Kumite New York for the next iteration of the Red Bull Kumite in the Street Fighter 6 series. And this one is for sure one for the books as well. As we saw earlier in the trailer, they had these amazing player cards. They're going with kind of like this comic book superhero sort of aesthetic for New York. And Bonchan is back in the mix, the very first Red Bull Kumite champion, as well as Tokido, legendary player, the 2 grand finalists for the first Red Bull Kumite. We also have Big Bird. He's the one who actually won Red Bull Kumite 23, the first one for Street Fighter 6. He's the reigning champion, invited as well. And then Chris Wong, the runner-up for Capcom Cup, one of the most consistent offline CPT players as well. But not just consistent players that you see in the offline tournaments and at the highest levels, but also dark horse picks like Hibiki the Beast, the best Lily player in the world. He has some great online tournament victories and some big wins over top level players. He was the guy who put Daigo into losers round 1 for the CPT Japan qualification. So he's caused some big upsets. He hasn't quite had the same opportunity to travel as much, but he was at Capcom Cup LCQ trying to make that last final push into Capcom Cup. But he actually got top 8 there with Lily, had a lot of amazing sets, beat some top level talent, and really showed off what he could do on stream, offline as well. So he's definitely an interesting character to partake in the Red Bull Kumite. But also, some consistent players as well. MenaRD, who has had such a dominant Street Fighter season, coming off the Street Fighter League Championship. He won Street Fighter League at Capcom Cup this year, first winning in USA to qualify as the USA representative with his team Bandits, and then winning it all over the EU and Japan teams. So he's in sharp form, and he had a disappointing result at Capcom Cup itself for MenaRD. He's the 2-time Capcom Cup champion. He was the reigning Capcom Cup champion leading into that tournament, and he ended up getting only top 16 at Capcom Cup, losing to Lashar in groups, and then eliminated by Fudo in top 16, which in hindsight, he lost to 2 super world-class players, arguably the most consistent player in Japan in Fudo, and then Lashar, the surprise, kind of the rising star from Capcom Cup, who ended up getting 4th place and surprising everybody with how strong he was performing. So a disappointing result for him, which is still a world-class result. And he's definitely back in form to show why he is one of the most consistent players on the planet. And of course, Punk to God, in the mix here as well. And I like to point out they have the player data here. Like they give people little stat points to play with. And Punk is the only one with the smack talk maxed out. I feel like he should have his fundamentals maxed out, to be quite honest. I think he kind of earned both of those, max fundamentals and max smack talk. They're kind of scrambling for the stats a little bit on these players, but it's a fun little attribute that they give the players to give a little bit more personality to these player cards. And that leads us into the format, because for this event, there was actually only 14 invited players to the tournament. They leave one spot open the day of for a last chance qualifier, an open bracket tournament that anyone there can enter to earn the final spot. They also had the play-in tournament here where they had online qualifiers, 4 in the US and 4 internationally, 1 in Japan, 1 in like around Italy, 1 in France, and 1 in Canada. So they had like a mini tournament that you had to win a tournament to qualify into. If you recall there, I actually participated in one of them. I got second to Shine. Shine is one of the players who moved on to compete in this bracket. So 2 players would be decided on Saturday to join the top 14 players that were invited on Sunday to round out a top 16 bracket. And that said, Nephew is the winner of the play-in tournament. Now, Nephew was actually just announced signed to Team Liquid. So big shout out to Nephew. You know, he's been doing really well in Street Fighter 6. He just got top 16 at Capcom Cup, getting out of a very strong group, and had a really great showing in his top 16 performance. But he also is doing content creation, being very consistent with that, also working full-time. So he's doing it all right now. And he goes into the play-in tournament and ends up winning in grand finals over Shine in a very stacked bracket, and did it in pretty dominant fashion. So just showing how strong he is and kind of avoiding that sponsor curse. A lot of times people like to joke about getting freshly minted with a very prestigious sponsor like Team Liquid, you know, a very long-standing member of the esports scene. But he avoided that, did his thing, was flown out, and actually competed and qualified for the final top 16 bracket. And then on to the LCQ, Dual Kevin, who also had a really good showing at Capcom Cup. He qualified out of the CPT Midwest region, my Midwest region that I was competing in. He managed to get into Capcom Cup and got into top 16 with a really strong performance out of groups as well. And he qualified through the LCQ, taking it in the grand finals over Uriel Valorio, and had a really solid showing, rocking both Luke and Rashid. Avoiding any mirror matches. Anytime he goes up against a Luke, he picks Rashid. If he goes against Rashid, he picks Luke. Very interesting kind of character selection from Dual Kevin in that sense, and showed off his strong fundamentals to make it that far into that bracket and qualify for the final tournament. And that said, we're off to the races. With the random drawing, it's a little bit unfortunate, but sometimes you get USA team kills up front. Idom, the New York representative, the only New York representative in the bracket for Red Bull Kumite New York, goes up against Nephew round 1, and I got to admit, it's a wash. I think Idom was very disappointed in this. He's also one of the low-tier heroes in this bracket, rocking only Manon, and Jury is pretty much his worst matchup in the entire game. And Nephew, you know, they play all the time. This is like a common occurrence in the online weeklies for the US, so not a new matchup. So 5-0 Nephew over Idom. Disappointing loss for Idom and a disappointing draw. But, you know, there's more matches in the tournament for the viewers to be entertained. And this is single elim. First to 5 single elim, you lose, you're out. Next matchup, another one of the dark horse picks, Biggie the Beast, gets drawn to go against NuckleDo. And this was also another bad draw. You know, Lily, definitely one of the less represented characters in the competitive season for a reason. And she definitely struggles in the Guile matchup. 5-0 dominant performance to NuckleDo, who takes it over Hibiki the Beast. And at this point, it's been a wash. There's been a lot of blow-ups at this point, and that really introduces the other cast of characters in this event. That it's not just the players, it's the production, the host, especially Rob TV, the Battle King, and Li Joe, aka Li Jerk, the bouncer, and also Alex Z, the taxi driver. They were fed up with these shenanigans. So Rob TV and Li Joe were playing the heel roles. They only wanted the best, and the losers could shove it and get out of their faces, kind of leaning into that jerk persona that they're bringing to the table. And that allowed for a lot of funny moments and a lot of funny smack talk amongst the players and the hosts themselves, including this moment in the second round where NuckleDo actually takes out Team Liquid's Nephew, and he had this to say.
Okay, what's going on? I just want to say congratulations to Nephew for joining Team Liquid. That's my old team. So GG's Team Liquid. Shopify.
NuckleDo always has a chip on his shoulder. He was one of the original fighting games players sponsored by Team Liquid way back in even the Street Fighter 4 days. So just kind of making a point right there. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Shout out to his old sponsor after he takes out Team Liquid's freshly minted nephew right there. But then here's what Rob has to say to nephew himself.
I want to give you guys a little bit of lore. Nephew actually got his name from being known as Daigo's nephew. Now he is Knuckle Dude's son.
The titles are changing. Air horn guy, that's the other part of this. Air horn man, you carried the stream this weekend. Whenever the tension was building up, that air horn was there to let you know it was time to, bring it over the top. Air horn did mad work over the weekend. And here's one of my other favorite moments. Once the players were defeated, they had to go to LI Jerk over here, the bouncer, and hand in their player card and dispose of it and take the taxi cab back to the airport because they were done with the event. So here's Li Joe dealing with Big Bird after coming off a very tough loss to Lashar's Chun-Li.
Hand over your fighter card.
Oh, wait, you know what? Here, take this home and give it to the better bird.
Ooh. Ouch. Air horn in the background.
No, you can keep it.
Give it to the better bird when you get home.
After taking the burn, you got to step into the taxi and head on to the airport. Take it home and give it to the better bird. Big Bird, he managed to make it out, but Angry Bird, due to health reasons, had to drop out of the event. So he's watching at home as Li Joe drops that one. And that one, it's got to sting a little bit. However, after a little while, the players are in the taxi cab with Z piloting the taxi cab. And I love this format they use. There is a big break between like when the player actually loses and they're in the taxi cab. And yes, they're there on the set and the crowd is actually outside of there. But these up close shots in the taxi cab, like this isolation of the space here, provides such an intimate moment where the players can actually decompress and speak about their loss in a way that feels more authentic and less like you're mocking them live on stage. I mean, Capcom Cup, that was pretty rough, I got to admit. Chris Wong just lost out on $700,000 and you immediately pull him onto the stage and put the mic in his face to ask him how he felt. This feels like an opportunity for the players to vent and, confess to the taxi cab confessions. It feels like a private space, with a stranger that it's ephemeral. It's a passing moment in time. What does it matter what you say? You can be honest with your emotions and let your guard down. I love this format, and Z was great in this format to soften the blow after the blow from Li Jerk outside. And here he is with Tokido after losing round 1 to Big Bird in the first of 5.
What do you want to say to your fans, your friends, your family back home? Give them the message.
Okay, so this time I really wanna win. So my most important thing is, of course, not filming. To win is my most important things. But this time, I couldn't do that. I'm sorry, but I will be back more stronger. So trust me.
Trust me, indeed. It just hits right with the old school New York hip hop beat going in the background. I love these moments that they had from the players. After the grandiose and the larger than life presentation and heel personas from Rob and Li Joe, a calming, intimate moment with Z on their way to the airport to get the hell out of there after losing the Red Bull Kumite event. But moving on in the bracket here, we had a lot of blowouts up until this point, not gonna lie. It was all 5-0 or 5-1s in the actual matches up till this point, and Rob TV and LHL were not pleased. They wanted closer sets, and eventually they were delivered that in probably the best set of the entire tournament. Dual Kevin versus Chris Wong. On paper, I knew this was going to be a great set. I feel like Dual Kevin has been disrespected for far too long, and the Midwest has been disrespected for far too long. So many people claim the Midwest is the least competitive region, and players like Dual Kevin aren't doing their thing, when in fact they are. Chris Wong has had such a dominant performance this year, and look at the performance that these two players gave. This was one of the wildest moments I have ever seen in Street Fighter 6.
That's one.
Yeah, so
What's
now
the
you-
mix?
Now you can build up a
Airborne?
second one. You can definitely build up a second one. Whoa! There's the backdash in the corner.
The escape from Dual Kevin, uses the Arabian Cyclone to shift the position.
The level 3.
Level 3 attempt.
Oh my God! What just happened?
Triple overhead. That was for the throw. They are scrambling right now.
You know what? Don't Kevin the Street Fighter 6
Amazing.
But that was some marble right
That
there,
was
baby.
definitely some marble.
Using that Arabian Cyclone after the enhanced Odie spinning mixer to get out of the corner and then to change his trajectory backwards again. It's a situation that neither of them had been in at that moment. You know, Chris Wong's trying to chase him down with the drive rush. Then he adjusts his angle or side swaps with the level 3. Wasn't there in time. And then to know from Dual Kevin to know to jump punish when he's in burnout on Luke's level 3 is actually great matchup awareness to get that optimal conversion and then to close out the game. Just an amazing scramble moment from both players thinking on their feet extremely fast. And then Dual Kevin ends up bringing this to a 4-4 final round game situation, but Chris Wong actually ends up closing up the set, so Chris Wong moves on in the bracket, but Dual Kevin absolutely did his thing and put on a great show for the crowd who was starving for a close set, so the most competitive set, and probably my favorite set in the whole tournament, Dual Kevin versus Chris Wong. Definitely check out this match if you have the time. But leading on into the match, as the players were drawn, the fate was decided for the players, and the fate for one player was already laid out for him, and that is Broski. But Broski had some interesting words before he even knew how things were going to play out. Broski, my fellow Oro brethren from back in the day, now rocking, originally rocking JP like myself, but moving on to Aki, resuming his role as a fan favorite, playing a very underrepresented and interesting character in Aki. He had this to say in the media piece they did prior to him knowing who his opponent would be.
I think when I go up against world champions and stuff, that's better for me because they've got everything to lose, got a reputation to maintain. People are expecting them to win. When you go in with the expectation that you're supposed to win, that's when the nerves start to set in. So if I go in there thinking, the people watching are maybe not expecting me to do well here, that's brilliant for me because the best I can do is beat their expectations. The worst I can do is just what they expect.
Embracing the true underdog mentality, and I got to admit, I totally understand what he's talking about. It's definitely a mentality that I try to embrace myself, and it's much easier to do when you're not playing a villainous character. Listen, I played both Oro. I played Balrog before. I played Oro. Balrog was a hated top-tier character. Oro was an underdog favorite. I play JP now. I know how it feels to be the underdog. It's much easier psychologically, to a degree, to play a character like Oro, because people are just rooting for you to win, and if you lose, no skin off your back. When you're playing JP, it's not the case. So Broski, moving on to Aki, puts himself firmly in that position where it's like, hey, you better not lose to me. I'm just here to have fun. You're the pro. I'm playing the low tier, the awkward, weird character that you might not know too much about and that I'm just having fun with. The pressure is on you, buddy. And who is the pressure on in this situation? Well, at this point, every single player had been drawn aside from Broski and his upcoming opponent. And that opponent is MenaRD. Talk about a world champion to be delivered. So it's almost like Broski spoke this moment into existence with that pre-interview, that interview prior to the actual tournament. And at first, it was looking like MenaRD was the professional. He goes up a quick 2-0 lead over Broski, and it was almost looking like it was going to be a wash. I saw people in the Twitch chat and YouTube chat talking like it's going to be a 5-0 donut match like we had seen prior to this for the rest of the event. But Broski starts to fight back, and in fact brings it to 3-3, and then has this round here. Perfect parry lands, goes straight to the level 3 to secure the burnout. And if you know anything about Aki and how Broski plays Aki, Aki is the queen of burnout. One bar on MenaRD's side, so he has to be careful with the pressure and going for the DI. He can react level 1 to stop the DI, but he goes for the random DI on the pressure guess. What this means, no meter on the side of Mena. And as soon as he blocks that OD fireball, Broski recognizes the situation. He forces him to block it, and that sets up the block string with the drive rush, crouching medium punch into the DI, which is absolutely guaranteed. So this was checkmate once he forced his block out of MenaRD. Amazingly played from Broski, just a great play to secure the checkmate situation, and that puts Broski in the lead in the set for the very first time, 4-3 over MenaRD, and the crowd was losing their minds as Broski was clawing his way into the lead in this position. However, in the end, it is clear that MenaRD is a person who thrives with his back against the wall. He finds the final shimmy situation after going up around in the final game and secures the set with a perfect. It was clear that MenaRD was figuring out on the fly the Aki matchup. Luke is a super common character. Everyone knows how to fight them. A high-level Aki, how often do you even see them? So Broski was doing amazing to bring his expertise to the table, winning the hearts of the people. But MenaRD shows why he is that dominant and consistent and gets the download and closes out the set. But definitely one of the best sets of the tournament as well. Definitely check out that match if you want to see some high-level Aki representation there from Broski. But that said, that seemed like the beginning of the momentum of MenaRD's run here. He then goes up against Gachikun in the next round, and Broski brought it to 5-4. Gachikun, he just placed third place at Capcom Cup, also a Capcom Cup champion in Capcom Cup 2018. Only 5-1 against MenaRD. MenaRD is looking too dominant. And in fact, that sets up our top 4 after, a couple matches. NuckleDude eliminating Nephew. Lashar, his dominant run since Capcom Cup, continuing with a win over Big Bird. Punk versus Chris Wong. This was an amazing set. Super strong performance in the neutral from both players. Also one of my favorite sets of the tournament. Highly recommend watching Punk versus Chris Wong. Then MenaRD eliminating Gachikun. This top 4, it looks familiar. NuckleDude, Lashar, Punk, MenaRD. Lashar, he just had his breakout performance at Capcom Cup, winning the group of death over players like MenaRD and then getting top 4 at Capcom Cup. But NuckleDude, Punk, MenaRD, does this look familiar to you? This is US East Coast. This is CPT US East. All these players, including IDOM here, are from the one CPT region. Remember, only 2 players per region can qualify, and there's a lot of discourse, especially from myself, talking about how densely stacked this region is at the top level. Regions like Japan and East Asia, like they tend to have a lot of high-level representation and a much denser talent pool than regions like the US. But there's been this argument that at the very highest level, the top-level representatives at the US are among the best in the world and the most consistent in the world. And it says more evidence to that effect. Obviously, this is invitational with seeding and kind of some randomness involved, so it's not, you can't draw any conclusions. But very interesting to see how it's NuckleDude, Punk, and MenaRD, so consistent from these regions, are in the top 4 in this Red Bull Kumite tournament. And getting off to the matches, Lashar finally meets his maker. He actually did really well in his group stages, but he had a loss to Kaba in the group stages of Capcom Cup. And then NuckleDude, who's been looking ferocious this whole weekend, takes a 5-1 victory to get into the grand finals over Lashar after Lashar was looking absolutely inhuman for the rest of the bracket with his wins earlier in the day. So Lashar, he's had another breakout performance at Red Bull Kumite, showing that it was no fluke, his performance at Capcom Cup. But NuckleDude moves on to grand finals. And then we have a classic matchup here, Punk versus MenaRD. Now, historically in Street Fighter 6, MenaRD has had the edge over Punk. Punk, has had many victories over MenaRD in Street Fighter 5, but as of late, Street Fighter 6, MenaRD seems to have Punk's number. And big part of it is not just, MenaRD beating Punk at the World Warrior Regional Finals, the event that actually allowed MenaRD to qualify into Capcom Cup. It's also the character matchup to a degree. We just saw Punk go to the grand finals of Capcom Cup LCQ, where he was looking unstoppable, but eventually he lost his winner side advantage and lost, I believe, 6-1 to Problem X using Blanca. So he was unable to qualify after getting to the finish line, the very finish line on winner side of grand finals, to Problem X using Blanca. And it seems like this character has been such a roadblock with these high-level pilots. Problem X and MenaRD are world-class players who have had many victories over Punk in the past. But this character seems to be a thorn in his side, and these players are getting the best of him. But now is his chance to show that he is prepared in the matchup and he's ready to finally get that victory. And if this round is any indication, I gotta spoil it, it doesn't work out for Punk. Look at this sequence right here from MenaRD. Punk already swapped off the Cammy to go to the Luke to have another option here. Sets down the Blanca-chan, and the cross-up connects. The level 1 connects. Blanca-chan continues the combo, hop into the Rainbow Ball to kill and take it to a 4-0 lead for MenaRD. Just such a ridiculous sequence here. Like, I could not believe how much damage that this combo did with the hop through cross up with the Blanca-chan. Absolutely gnarly sequence for MenaRD. Punk mashes on rematch, doesn't take any time to take a mental breath, and it ends up being a 5-0 victory for MenaRD over Punk the God. The momentum is too strong in Mena's favor, and he ends up going into the grand finals to go up against NuckleDude. And you know what? It seems like the freight train has begun. It's left the station. After having a close call versus Broski, where Broski actually went up 4-3 versus MenaRD and forced him to win 2 back-to-back to secure his position into the next round. He then goes 5-1 against Gachikun, then 5-0 against Punk the God. It seems like no one can stop this man. and his offensive momentum. However, there has been one man who's come close before, and that is, of course, Knuckle Do Dang. And once again, this is reminding me of how MenaRD qualified for Capcom Cup, because he qualified out of the online World Warrior Regional Finals for US East after getting so close so many times to qualifying in the offline tour. He got second at EVO to Angry Bird, so Angry Bird qualified there. He also got top 8 at every single offline CPT event and ended up getting second to Chris Wong in CPT France. So we got so close so many times we couldn't close out and had to get through Knuckle Do to make it into Capcom Cup. And in that online qualification, it came down to the final round, final guess, final interaction between these two players. And you can see MenaRD fighting for his life, trying to avoid the burnout, finds the jump and pops to level 2. Knuckle Do with 0 super meter. He forced the burnout into the level 2 situation. He's taking the chip damage, and he's eventually going to set up the guaranteed DI with 0 options available and no meter available. MenaRD clutches out this combo here, sets up the sequence. He's going to get one more interaction with the Bonchan there, and he gets the final throw through the parry to close out the set and barely qualify by the skin of his teeth into Capcom Cup. So, with this in the back of both players' minds, with Knuckle Dude knowing that he was forced to stress in the open bracket CPT qualifier to make it into Capcom Cup this year, you know that both players are anxious to get back into the battle and show who is truly the best. And with that said, it is another 5-0 wash. MenaRD cannot be stopped. You know, many people were giving Punk a hard time for getting washed 5-0 against MenaRD, but everybody in this tournament got washed. Gachikun 5-1, Punk 5-0, Knuckle Do 5-0, and MenaRD takes Red Bull Kumite in dominating fashion over the field. And in fact, the only person to come even close to stopping that was Broski with Aki in round 1. Can you imagine the world we would have lived in if Broski had actually eliminated MenaRD early on? Just, you know, the way fate could play out, right? It's really interesting to think about. And that said, at the end of the tournament, MenaRD is handed the gauntlet with all the players' cards on it. So puts his player card into the hand to hold up his prize, absorbing the power of all the players of the event to become the Red Bull Kumite New York champion, and another accolade on the belt of MenaRD, who's had such an amazing first season for Street Fighter 6. And, you know, that concluded Red Bull Kumite. And I think the big takeaway I have from this event, and that a lot of people have from this event, is that esports does not have to be lame. You know, a lot of people like to argue that esports is not part of the FGC, that we're grassroots through and through, and that esports has killed the community and killed the vibe that the FGC has brought through its own grassroots efforts to deliver to the fans of the games and the community itself. And I think Red Bull Kumite proves that these high production events don't have to feel sterile. They don't have to feel corporate. They don't have to feel fake. And I think it starts with the venue, the atmosphere, the sets. Bring the crowd close to the players. Make it intimate. Make the audience feel involved. Make it fun. Give the community members the chance to shine, to show their personalities, and let the players show their personalities as well. I think that's what makes the FGC so great, is that we have amazing personalities from all over the world and top-tier skill levels to back it up as well. And Red Bull has consistently allowed the players and the community to express its values and have fun with the franchises and the games that they love. And so for that, I say thank you to Red Bull Kumite for putting on this amazing event for nearly a decade. And thanks to you guys for watching this video. Hope you guys enjoyed. Peace.